Game 1 in the rematch between Tempest and Miracle. And for Tempest, a lot was relying on their ability to execute combos. Void Prison with the Apocalypse. But a big thing for me was Hyde and his inability to be able to execute good stay-a-whiles along with those combos trick.
Well, one of it was because Blue Beetle was hitting amazing ages. He immediately followed up there. You had the armor right away, which meant that suddenly Miracle can decide, do we want to turn around and continue this fight, or do we want to back up? But I agree with you. Hyde not being able to find those big stay-a-while listens, that's a very difficult thing that is going to ruin your team. So hopefully that adjustment is going to be happening, but at the same time, we keep talking about the garage. If that garage is allowed through one more time, I feel like Miracle right now is on a steamroll.
Well, we've been talking so much about how important this rematch is for Miracle, even beyond just moving on, but this really is a grudge match because Miracle, who had gotten to a point in league play where they were not only defeating Ballistics, which is what happened in playoffs, they beat Gen G, guys. One team that could consistently defeat them was Tempest. And when we asked why to Miracle, they said, we could team fight, but Tempest, they team fight even better. And Wolf, it just no longer feels like that's the case after Game 1.
I feel like there were a lot of moments where we saw VP used defensively. There were some overextensions by Tempest. Like, it feels like Tempest is literally living in the past in terms of their drafting, in terms of their execution of draft. I mean, it was so textbook what we saw there from Frankel. Hide in the bush, send the Banshee over, delay. They've got the Dahaka. Dahaka was let through the draft again. Everything is, there's like nothing weird about what Miracle is doing. Everything is standard, but there is that feeling like they can't even team fight better than Miracle now. So how can they win this best of 3? Like, it's like, this is the change of the guard. You know, this is maybe the second best team in Korea now. We have to think about that as potentially like a fact, not an opinion anymore.
Pressure was a big point for me because you look at ZAKRIA and normally you are trying to really create not only kill opportunities through the wombo combo, but you want to pressure the backline. And we saw such a great communication on the side of Miracle wherever ZAKRIA is. But it was so difficult for Lockdown to get anywhere close to a target. And you want to land that VP to set something up, but every time there was a choke point situation, Miracle just moved back, let them move in, and said, okay, we're going to take him on open space. We're going to just simply move apart. And then you have Sniper, who does the exact opposite. He's the one who all of a sudden finds those aggressive pressure points where he can jump on a target. How often did we see him jump on Hyde, get the pull in, and all of a sudden you see the cage coming down, big team fight, and they walk away with 2 to 3 kills?
Well, the reason why we see such great team fights from Korean teams is because this is a region known from their for their micro game, their ability to team fight. Gen G, such an exceptional micro-intensive team. And looking at the teams that are here at the HGC finals, we could see total team fight time in opening week. The one was at the top. We expect that, right, from a Chinese team. But after that, Tempest. And Tempest giving those opportunities to the one is a very reason why the one trick were able to get a game off of Tempest.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite a brawl too. But yeah, when you're looking at the regions, I think you can look at it as China, probably the most aggressive when it comes to brawling in those fights. And of course, Korea afterwards, North America, and then Europe. You're going to see a lot of aggression when you have these regions facing off each other. And we're going to get it between mirror matchups consistently.
In the last game, we saw 11 minutes average time. The last game was 14 minutes of team fighting. So, you know, it was pretty fun for you guys to commentate. It was fun for me to listen to. It was fun for us to watch. But I guess it kind of depends on the map too, right? You're going to get a lot of brawls in Towers of Doom, and we'll have to see where we're going and if those kinds of brawls opportunities can continue for both of these teams. But I love the idea that Miracle might be able to finally shake off Tempest, because when we had asked them, you know, it was like us and then Tempest, and I can't remember who said that, but it was just like covering it, because it's always felt like Tempest are the better team fighters, and it's just no longer the case, Kaldor.
I would absolutely agree with it. I mean, you saw it in the last fight. There were even a couple of moments where we talked a lot about the synergy. You have the arrow, you have the Epoch, the Void Prison. In some of them, they nearly screwed it up. You all of a sudden, the Void Prison coming out just after the Apocalypse is there. They still managed to get the hits, though, and the stuns, but then nothing happens. Twice, I think, in a row, they executed the combo, and then there's no follow-up with damage. There's no kill, and all of a sudden you just see Miracle saying, like, well, I guess we take that fight now.
I think a big change up here, though, for Miracle is Dahaka coming in here. Typically, you look at Miracle, and they're always converging on their opponents, and Tempest was able to punish that with better fighting in the past, but Dahaka suddenly allowed for that 4-man to back up, play a little bit safer, and allowed for them to finally give those picks that they actually want to have compared to what we've seen in the past.
Well, I've got news, and good news for you brawling fans, because we are headed to Battlefield of Eternity for Game 2 between these teams. Chosen by Miracle, Tempest wanting first pick to make their last stand. Potentially, depending how the next game goes. But Battlefield of Eternity, Korea versus Korea. Wolf, break it down.
I mean, this has been an incredible map for Phase 2 for Miracle. They've had some great last stands on this, including their defenses of their core while down 2 keeps against Gen G. Having that comeback with no keeps down for Gen G is one of the more famous games from League play in Korea this year. And you know, they've been focused more on macro recently, you know, to further that point you guys were just discussing about this team being known for team fighting, then transitioning into Dahaka control. It feels to me that there's been a shift of the meta this entire tournament of teams that go for the dive, teams that go for aggression overall are starting to fail, with the exception of Dignitas. They ran the solo support Avatar, crushed Tempest with that. But besides that, it feels like the teams that are being more passive, playing the macro game and looking for counter engages rather than the actual dive themselves are finding more success.
Is this a Hanzo? Is this a Maiev?
It's got to be a Hanzo.
I mean, first of all, can we appreciate the Garrosh ban?
Yeah, we certainly can.
We should all appreciate that Garrosh ban. Talking about tanks, though, both teams, like Tyrael here, that could come into play later on.
Leaving Hanzo open.
All right.
I love how right out of the bat they are banning Garrosh. The last time they didn't even make it into the bans at all, and right now they're saying, okay, first ban, like, we're done with this. But yeah, with Hanzo open, of course, you want to get him great engage potential through the arrow. You can raise the Immortal. He's fantastic for the poke. But so is Serana. She's a huge asset on any map these days, but on Battlefield of Eternity even more so. And you have the setup with Diablo, so already aggressive. You have a lot of kill opportunities here if you execute your combos correctly, and you can also like spec straight into an Immortal race if you have some follow-up damage behind it.
Feels like this is a composition where I think Sign might have to play Tyrael. The Garrosh is removed. You have the more defensive composition with the Hanzo, and Anubrag is the other hero that Sign likes to play, but it doesn't suit this composition. It suits a more aggressive, more dive-oriented composition, not a Hanzo scatter arrow style. So I think Miracle is probably giving a lot of consideration to that Tyrael ban here that you brought up earlier, because it's just so powerful with this. You already have Blaze as well for disengage, the Aegis that Whitemane can provide, as we saw with great success on towers. So, I mean, this is, I mean, if they get forced to play something other than the Tyrael, then I think they're going to struggle. They banned the Hammer instead, so furthering that idea of making sure they don't have the ultimate composition to grind away at those Immortals. But still following the same logic.
Battleground. Do you feel like Sign could run Murden here?
I was thinking about that too, because you have a jet propulsion follow-up. I mean, we have seen a lot of that Tyrael and Blaze combo in the group stage actually, where you can, like the Western Clash, the first one this year, layer your defensive tools with the Sanctification and the Bunker. That can really help depending on what you run as the additional damage dealer if you want to engage there. Oftentimes you've seen that in the past with the Greymane. That can actually work on Battlefield of Eternity. Not necessarily the pick that you have to play here, but if you are going away from that idea, then a Muradin would be a good choice too.
Well, there's that Thrall that we've been looking for. One of the 2 out of 4 that you typically get when you have Miracle getting wins here. You have the Diablo and you have the Thrall mixed in here, which is usually pretty darn good for them. 70% of their wins and above have been because of this combo being together. And then, of course, Raynor coming in for Frankel.
A lot of that is Sniper. When you put Sniper on something that is easier to kill, that's when things are easier for opponents of Miracle. But if you can get home something that can turn fights, like with the Sundering, or even the Maiev that we saw in the last game, things get a lot better.
It's going to have to be a flanking Thrall. It's going to have to be an engaged Thrall. However, it's not going to be the you know, more defensive setup in most cases against this style. And they're going to take ATC. So Sign, he's had some inconsistency on Tyrael over the years, shall we say. And I think that the ETC is something that's more comfortable for him, but I don't know if it's as safe against a Thrall, for example. Tyrael could set up a Sanct to prevent an entire engage, whereas ETC is limited in what he can do. He's not going to find an easy mosh pit here, and he's not going to be able to deny that Sunder flank.
ETC on this map, this is one of ETC's better maps for sure though, so you have at least a tool where you can try and get someone into an Immortal Stun, push him out, slide through. You have also him comboed now with a Blaze, which gives an additional layer of defense after level 10, because ETC usually struggles that you can just burst him down pretty easily, and as an ETC player you have to be very careful that you don't take any poke damage. With the Blaze you mitigate that weakness a little bit. But yeah, Sign has to be playing on point here if they want to get a good value out of it. But it's a good map for him, and it's a decent composition also for an ETC.
His job is to create space here. Just make sure that Hanzo has time to put out those scatter arrows, especially post level 7, and he can do that. But the room for error is pretty darn low. If you make a mistake, ETC pops just like that.
Sign earlier in the group stage played Stage Dive ETC, correct?
Yeah, it was really weird, and
it
didn't work out. I don't think we're going to see that. I mean, that Stage Dive pick was so weird to me that I almost wondered if it was a misclick back in the group stage. I think that Miracle has absolute control over this. ETC is dated because back when ETC was super popular, there weren't great poke heroes like the Raynor, and now they have the Tyrande. If he gets caught with any Lunar Flares, he is going to be, if he doesn't die, so worthless. He's going to have to Hearth Home or tap. So I don't have a lot of faith that this ETC was better than the Tyrael.
No room for error for Sign, and no room for error for Tempest, as they must win this to stay in the tournament as they go into Game 2 on Battlefield of Eternity versus Miracle.
Caldor Miracle has finally broken that streak against Tempest. They got that first win, but now the next step, winning a series.
It looks like they can maybe pull that off, though. The amount of CC that we have on Miracle's lineup, also with Thrall in the mix for the Wolves, with Diablo engaged, and Tyrande follow-up, and Arthas as well for Howling Blast and the slows alone. There's so much CC available for that team that whenever you get caught, you are forced into a fight that if you are Tempest, you might not want to take.
The only thing kind of missing here, you have Diablo that can force the engages, but if you have your front line watching for that Diablo, typically Hanzo has enough space to win those races. So we're going to watch that front line, but here we go. Straight into the match on the left side. In the blue, it will be Judy on Diablo, Franco on Raynor, Blue Beetle on Tyrande, Nitrogen on Arthas, and Sniper show off the Thrall.
And over to the right side of the map, their opponent down one game in the series. Hyde on Whitemane for Team Tempest. Sign is on ETC. Dami on Blaze. We're seeing Lockdown on Hanzo in this game. And last but not least, it's Gun on Phoenix. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Tempest!
Speaking of Tempest and Sign in particular, level 1 change up for that talent. Going into the block party, typically you want to do this against high auto attack heroes that are looking to burn you down. With Raynor and Thrall on the opposing side, not a bad choice to pick up.
Yeah, and there's always, of course, the argument to be made if you're going for Prog Rock and you have to get those globes. This is a 2-lane map. Yes, if you dominate the objective, you get that completed a lot faster. There's always that back and forth when it comes to a discussion of which talent to take here. We have Whitemane as the backup, so they should be able to create that space. But as we said before, a lot of this hinges on Sign, his positioning and his playmaking abilities.
Now, Tempest has Phoenix hanging back in that top right corner, seeing if Arthur can get aggressive here, but Thrall is actually rotating up.
Exactly. Thrall is actually, in this case, still holding his level 1 too. Now, we've seen Crash Lightning